Hello. Well, from that last video experience, my eyes aren't so good these days. They've been changing for the last couple of years pretty intensely. And just having all kinds of things go on with them that I feel are a part of the cleansing that's going on. And we've also got our DNA coming online, we've got our chakras activating, and there's a union that will occur between the pituitary and the pineal when they link up. And so there's just a lot of crud that needs to be cleaned out of the way in advance of this. So if you're having eye problems, maybe see an eye doctor if you feel like doing that. I've kind of given up on doctors. The AMA kind. Anyhow, that's neither here nor there. But I won't be trying to read under bright lights again. If it's another written journal, I'll be in a little dimmer lighting. Okay, I'm a little unsure of this journal because ideas came to me ahead of time. I saw myself journaling here, and I don't want to put the mind in charge of things. So I'm surrendering to the flow, and because that always knows best. Even when mind gets a great idea and wants to run with it, what's the energy under there in the end? It's just not the highest and best that you could offer if it's coming from the level of your mind. Mind is wonderful. Its gifts are sterling, stupendous, and much has been accomplished by its abilities. It's just not meant to rule, not meant to lead. You, the spirit, are that, if we can define you that way. That's the thing. You have ideas about who and what you are, about what your abilities are, about what your faults or failings are. You have an awareness of your habits and patterns and so on and so forth. And I'm going to suggest that you let go of all of that. When you come into heart, please do that now. Set all that aside. Just set it aside. It's all mind-based. That's the mind-structured, the mind-constructed reality. And it's just not needed in here, and it limits you. If there's a structure, it has strengths and it has limitations. And so just let it go. And there's an emptiness here that enables the flow from spirit, from divinity. And so we don't bring all those ideas, thoughts, and habit patterns in with us. Cleanse from it, take a bath in the light, and realize that you don't know anything. You haven't a clue who and what you are. And I have barely more than a clue. And it's a great and grand journey of discovery. Who and what you are is the same as who and what I am in heart at this ultimate level. So come into heart with me. There's an I am that you are in there. What is I am? It's a statement of being. Now the mind will qualify it with something or another. I am happy, I am hungry, I am this, I am that, I am pretty, I am ugly, I am whatever, whatever, whatever. Whereas being itself doesn't qualify being, it just says I am. It's a statement of isness, of beingness. And we even have the authority of the Bible for this, where the name of God is given as I am that I am. What I would like to suggest to you is that there is present within your heart the divine I am. And you can well and truly say, I am that. I am. That I am is who and what I am. I am that. And when you say this in emptiness, that flows through. Now, the emptiness is the key and the secret. See, we don't have to go out and find anything. We have it all right here and right now. I don't care what your stage of development is or what your thoughts or ideas or habit patterns are. All of that is so much garbage. When you come to this point, you have to be able to shove it aside, to set it aside. I mean, it's going to be there. You can pick it up later if you want to. But to enter heart fully and deeply, it's a letting go. It's a constant letting go. And so on this journey, things that come up for you are being shown to you as something that needs to be let go of. There's some kind of letting go that is required, some kind of seeing. And we even have to let go in order to be able to see. If we aren't willing, Spirit isn't going to force us into anything. Now, the flow of events will be what the flow of events is. But Spirit isn't forcing you within yourself into anything. You can take things as you will. That's your choice. You can also make a choice to center and to be the fullness of the divinity that abides there. The fullness of divinity abides within you. The fullness of it, not just a part or a piece. God isn't divisible like that. God doesn't divide out into little bitty bits, pieces, and parts. That's a 3D thing. That's where you get the extreme of specialization, to where you can hardly find a general practitioner anymore. Everyone has so specialized. And there can be a benefit in specialization, but only if it all comes back and integrates together, only if heart is in charge of things and there's a higher purpose there besides just specialization for specialization's sake. That's to be lost in the details. And that's okay too. I mean, you know, people need to go where their heart leads them. And if that's where they find their joy, then there's a reason for that. And they should follow it. Not that I like the word should, but anyway, they would do well to follow. Most of us have a head full of so much programming and a heart full of it too, that it's hard to accept that there could be the fullness of divinity abiding right where we are. And so a lot of people get stuck there and don't even realize that they're stuck. And so what's being called for, I would guess, is a letting go. As we distance self from the mind, as we watch and observe more and more in our life, we realize that we have a mind and that it operates, but that isn't who and what we are. And so we can step back and watch without any judgment of right or wrong, good or bad. As we come into heart, that judgment is gone. And it really gives you some ideas about the whole Adam and Eve thing and what that might have been. But being in heart is like before the apple was eaten. It's just all beautiful. And yet it's not blind, dumb, and stupid to the darkness. It's not ignorant. So maybe this is even better because it integrates the whole eating of the apple thing and takes it up a higher level on the spiral. I don't know. You know? But at the very least, divinity is the teacher within heart. That we can go in there to connect up with. Now, is that all that wants to be said right now? know. It seemed that there was more. But that's mind. And it's important to be able to look at mind and not partake of its gifts, its offerings, just to be able to look at them and say, okay, that's interesting, and look away. You limit yourself if you stay within mind. That's all. There's nothing wrong with mind. It's not bad or evil. It's not something you have to forsake entirely and walk away from. You just have to be able to step away from it. It's all. I mean, it's not a big thing. And yet it is a big thing. It's a huge thing. It's probably the biggest thing someone in mind can be asked to do. Because it quakes and it shakes your very reality. And that's what's going on here. Now the thing is, things are accelerating so very fast. That was the other part of the message that I was seeing to come through. I talk sometimes about time collapsing. Well, what is a practical illustration of that? What does that mean to you personally, that time is collapsing? I would suggest that where once it might have taken many, many lifetimes, much suffering, endless hours of meditation, so on and so forth, in order to attain to a certain level of higher consciousness, that is much easier done now, and all of that could be done within a week. That's a part of what's going on here. Things are accelerating so fast. Now, I want you to consider something else here. I know that some of you are uncomfortable with the idea of a reincarnation, re-embodiment. The fact that the soul gets more than just one shot to get it right. And so I'm going to ask you to table that for a moment and consider that all time is now. And we have some physics to illustrate this. Things can go backward in time, and regularly do. Read the Tao of Physics, Friedrich Capra. It's been out quite a while. There are subatomic particles that's their whole business in life, is to travel backwards in time. That's their nature. Time isn't what we think it is. I also highly recommend Peter Russell and the Primacy of Consciousness. I have videos where I've given links to these things. So things just aren't what mind thinks that they are. And these things I am mentioning are tools to help you pry yourself away from your mind so that you can take a deep breath and realize you're much more than that. And furthermore, you can evaluate the offerings of your mind. It's only ego that thinks every thought mind has is right. And as a natural part of the cleansing that we're doing, the rising in frequency, ego is falling away. Bit by bit by bit, you're going to find yourself less egotistical. Now, we all have an ego. It's not a bad thing to have. Again, it's just a bad thing to let be in control. And it's a structure that was built up in order to navigate 3D, which is very challenging and trying for the spirit. Things are rough down here. And so the tenderness of the spirit took on this persona. And I'm no authority on this. I'm just saying I'm watching bits and parts and pieces of ego that are still with me. And a lot more of it, though, that's just falling away. And it seems so often when I'm shown how a piece of ego is acting, on the seeing, it can dissolve and be gone. I don't know why, because. But seeing is doing. It's not a passive thing. And there's free will involved with it. When you're present, you're in your will, your free will, and you have control of it. You set your intent This is how you steer your ship of state. So, I am suggesting that the kernel, the core of you, is divinity itself. And that everything that has been piled on top of that divinity, be it mind, body, ego, all the rest of it, all of this is dissolving. I might even suggest that the inner intensity of the radiation of that divinity within you is shining brighter and brighter and melting some of this away. I don't know. Look, folks, these are all just ways to conceptualize what is going on. You'll have your own. They'll be presented to you from source right within you. And if you can get quiet enough and learn to recognize it when it's speaking. Source speaks to all of us 24/7, pretty much. But are we present? When we're present right in the middle of the cross of time and space, when we're exactly here and exactly now, we can tune into this. When we get off center, then we're not hearing so well. It's like being between two stations on the radio dial. The frequency's off a bit. Thus, the beauty of being present, of being in the now, not being off in the future with what you need to do, or in the past with what's been done to you, or what you've done, or whatever. And there's a science to this. We were, in other ages, far more advanced, both technologically and spiritually, than we are now. And some of us have memories cropping up from these other times. We know more than we're aware of. And once we let go of what we do know, all this other knowing has room to come in. As long as you're stuck within the mind that's attached to this embodiment only, you're all full, your cup is full. There's no room to pour anything else. As we empty out, we can become more aware of the fact that all time is now. So I'm living all of my incarnations in this very moment. And you know what? All of them are me. They're different bodies, different forms, different times and spaces. But the I am is unique to me. It's the I am that I am in all of them. And since all of them are me, there's a sharing that's going on in higher dimensions. Whether you're conscious of it or not really doesn't matter. It can be fun to begin to tune into it, and even to take an active part in it, and to do something like, what is it that you need in this hour? If Spirit has presented something to you and you want to understand it better, you can call on higher self. You can call for the integration across all your embodiments such that the highest understanding that you've ever gained in any lifetime be presented to you, be made available to you. Now, this won't necessarily come in some big flash. As a matter of fact, it's generally much more subtle than that, but it happens. I call for my DNA to be adjusted by the highest and the best of this or that that's available in any embodiment. Come on, it's all me. It's all the same I am. So I have authority over it. Within cosmic law, there are structures. It's not all totally wild and crazy, though it may seem to be. But in order to partake of these things, the emptying out is required. And so you hear people talk about silence. Empty O Grace recently did a video on silence. And silence and emptiness are much the same thing. It's not something you do, though. It's something that is, and you just come in contact with it. It's much greater than you, or I, or anyone. These things simply are. It's not something you invent. It's something you discover, you uncover. And in doing this, maybe the biggest hallmark of the seeker is surrender. Is this continual letting go, letting go, letting go. The spiral is taking us higher. It's taking you higher, if you will. And the letting go really is required to stay on top of things. On top of, some have said it's like there's a wave coming in of higher frequency or something from the center of the galaxy. And in order to ride it, it requires this rising in frequency with the energy. And to do that, there's an intensity of letting go that must go on. But don't let the past hold you down or hold you back. You're capable of so much more. It's just that we've been programmed that we're these little bitty things and we can only do so much, and we have all these problems, and you know, all the answers are outside of us, not within us. We've got to go get, do, we're needy, etc., etc. It's a bunch of bullshit. And I would say it's meant to keep us away from our source and our center. When we touch down with this divinity, there's no stopping us. And the dark side knows that the game is lost. And so they've tried and they've tried and they've tried and succeeded for a time to hold us back, to hold us down. But that's over now. So there's no need to be in a rush. But just know that this inner divinity, it belongs to all of us. It's what we truly are, and it's what all life is too. As we enter into it, we're entering into a oneness with all that is, and you walk around with such a reverence. You know, you could just have tears streaming from the beauty of all that you see around you. From the dust under your feet is divinity. It's all divine. And from deep enough within, this is seen. And this is your experience of life. And this is how you can welcome even the hard times, because your vision is changed. It's not covered up and clouded by all that you've been through. It's clean. It's pure. It's simple. It's present in the now. So, enter into the I am that I am. That you are, that we are. See you again soon.